Serena Blake, 28 years old, had spent her entire life trying to please her impossibly demanding parents. Every Sunday, she drove to their mansion in Westchester, hoping that this dinner would be different. Her father, Leonard Blake, was a wealthy business owner who measured worth in achievements, and her mother, Celeste, was a socialite obsessed with appearances. Together, they made family gatherings feel like corporate evaluations. That night, Serena arrived with a bottle of wine and good news. She had finally been promoted to senior account manager. Maybe, just maybe, they would be proud of her. Subscribe for more African folktales of justice, family, and forgiveness every day. Growing up as the daughter of Leonard and Celeste Blake had been like living under constant judgment. Her earliest memories were filled with commands. Serena, sit up straight. Serena, fix your hair. Serena, why can't you be more like your brother? Those words echoed through the grand halls of their 5-bedroom colonial house, shaping how she saw herself. Her brother Adrian, 4 years older, had always been their pride. When Adrian brought home an A-, there were celebrations. When Serena earned straight A's, her mother simply said, "That's expected." Adrian had followed the perfect path: Princeton Law School and a corner office in Manhattan. Their parents loved to brag about him to anyone who would listen. Serena, on the other hand, had chosen marketing, putting herself through NYU with scholarships and loans. When she rejected the pre-law track her father had chosen for her, he'd told her coldly, "If you want to waste your potential, pay for it yourself." That night, she had cried herself to sleep. But instead of giving up, she worked harder, determined to succeed on her own terms. Despite building her own life, Serena could never escape the Sunday dinners. Every week, she drove from her modest 1-bedroom apartment in Astoria to sit through 3 hours of veiled insults. Her mother would brag about other people's children. The Henderson girl made partner last month, or Adrian just won another case. Her father would nod in approval, never asking Serena a single question about her work. But lately something had changed. They whispered when she entered rooms. They canceled dinners twice, something that had never happened before. When Serena asked if everything was all right, her mother brushed her off. "It's nothing for you to worry about," Celeste said, waving her manicured hand. But the tension was impossible to ignore. Even her therapist, Dr. Carroll, had urged her to stop attending the weekly dinners. "Family should be a source of comfort, Serena," she'd said gently during one session. "Not constant pain." Still, some part of Serena hoped that if she kept showing up, kept trying, one day she might earn their approval. Her small apartment in Queens was a reflection of who she was: cozy, neat, and filled with personal touches. There were framed photos of friends, shelves of marketing books, and a single plant she was proud had survived 2 years. When her promotion came through, she could hardly believe it. 3 years of late nights, stressful campaigns, and relentless effort had finally paid off. She called her best friend Nadia to share the news. "Don't get your hopes up too high," Nadia warned. "Your parents don't change, no matter how big the news is." Still, Serena couldn't help herself. She wanted to tell them in person. She wanted to see her father's eyes light up with pride, even if it happened only once. She spent hours choosing the right outfit for dinner, settling on a navy blue dress and simple gold earrings. It was professional but understated, the kind of look her mother couldn't criticize. "You're setting yourself up for disappointment," Nadia had sighed over the phone. "Maybe," Serena replied softly, "but this time feels different." The drive to Westchester that Sunday was unusually long. Early spring air brushed through her open window as pale green leaves shimmered along the road. She stopped at a boutique wine shop to buy a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon, her father's favorite. As she turned onto the long driveway leading to her childhood home, her stomach tightened. Both cars were in the driveway, but the house seemed darker than usual. "Maybe they're having dinner outside," she whispered to herself, trying to shake the unease curling in her chest. Her mother opened the heavy oak door before Serena could ring the bell. Celeste stood immaculate in a pearl gray suit, her blonde hair perfectly styled. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, moved from Serena's heels to her dress. "You're 5 minutes late," she said instead of greeting her. "And that color does nothing for your skin tone." Serena forced a polite smile. "Good to see you too, Mom. I brought Dad's favorite wine." Celeste took it without looking. "He's drinking French reds now." "Close the door. You're letting in pollen." Inside, everything looked the same. The polished floors, the expensive furniture, the family portraits on the walls. But Serena noticed something new. Several framed photos of Adrian recently added, while her lone graduation picture gathered dust in the corner. Her father, Leonard, stood by the bar cart, checking his phone. "Serena," he said without looking up. "Drink." "Just water," she replied, sitting down. "Is Adrian joining us?" "Business trip," Leonard muttered, pouring himself scotch. "Chicago case. He sends his regards." His tone made it clear. Adrian's absence mattered more than Serena's presence. Dinner began in near silence. The table gleamed beneath the chandelier's glow. Crystal glasses, silver flatware, and white orchids arranged with surgical precision. Celeste served a chilled asparagus soup, her movements crisp and deliberate. "I saw Elaine Richardson at the club yesterday," she said finally, breaking the quiet. "Her daughter just got engaged to a surgeon. They're having a December wedding at the plaza." Serena recognized the tone, the same one her mother used to remind her that she was 28 and single. "That sounds lovely," Serena replied, her voice even. "The plaza's always beautiful during the holidays." "Elaine mentioned you two were in the same sorority," Celeste continued, slicing her bread into perfect squares. "She was surprised when I told her you were still at that marketing firm instead of focusing on your personal life." Serena inhaled deeply, holding her composure. "It's actually a respected agency, Mom. And I was just promoted." "Leonard," Celeste interrupted smoothly, turning to her husband, "did you call the real estate agent back about the property in France?" Her father shot her a sharp look. "Not now, Celeste." The room went quiet again, the air thick with something unspoken. When the main course arrived, roasted chicken and vegetables, Serena tried once more. "I wanted to tell you both that I got promoted," she began carefully. Leonard, however, stabbed at his food. "These property taxes are outrageous," he muttered. "Highway robbery." "Leonard, please," Celeste sighed, refilling her wine glass. "Let's not start that again." Serena set her fork down gently. "Is something wrong? You both seem distracted tonight." Her parents exchanged a glance. Celeste looked almost amused. Leonard's jaw tightened. He took a long sip of scotch, then set the glass down with deliberate precision. "Actually," Leonard said finally, "there is something we need to talk about." Serena's heart lifted, absurdly hopeful maybe they had heard about her promotion already. Maybe this was some elaborate surprise of congratulations. "We've been thinking about our future," he continued. "What we want for the next chapter of our lives." Celeste smiled faintly, twirling her wineglass. The chandelier light caught her diamond ring. "The truth is," Leonard said, looking directly at Serena for the first time that evening, "you've become a burden to us." The word struck like a slap. "Excuse me," Serena whispered. "You heard me," Leonard said, his voice steady and cold. "These weekly dinners, your constant need for approval, it's exhausting. Your mother and I want peace in our lives, and that means without you." Celeste nodded, smiling the same unsettling smile. "We've tolerated your choices for years, darling," she added. "The second-rate college, the unremarkable career, the lack of a suitable partner. We've been patient, but we're done pretending." Serena's throat tightened. "I have a good job. I'm independent. I barely ask you for anything." "Your existence is the burden," her father said flatly. The air left the room. Serena stared at them, waiting for laughter, some cruel joke, but none came. "We're moving to France," Celeste said lightly, as if discussing a vacation. "A lovely property in Provence. No more dreary Sundays. No more disappointment." Leonard gestured toward the door. You should leave, Serena. Now. She blinked, frozen in disbelief. You're serious? Completely, he said. We're done. Celeste sipped her wine, satisfied. It's really for the best, darling. We should have been honest years ago. Serena rose on trembling legs, placed her napkin neatly beside her plate, and walked out. Neither parent stopped her. The last thing Serena heard before the door closed was her mother's casual voice floating through the air. Well, that went better than expected. Shall we have dessert? The words echoed in her mind as she stumbled toward her car. Her vision blurred with tears, and by the time she reached the driver's seat, she could barely breathe. A burden, she whispered. That's what I am. The drive back to Queens passed in fragments. Red lights, the glow of street lamps, the sound of her own sobs filling the car. She pulled into her apartment building and collapsed on the couch, her body shaking uncontrollably. Memories flooded in. Birthdays forgotten, graduations overshadowed by Adrian's achievements, dinners where every compliment turned into a comparison. She had accepted their coldness as normal, always thinking that if she worked harder, they would love her. Who was I trying to please? She murmured through tears. Hours passed before exhaustion dragged her into uneasy sleep. In the morning, her pillow was still damp, and her promotion email sat unread on her phone, a cruel reminder of what she had lost. By noon, her best friend, Nadia, was calling. You sound awful, Nadia said when Serena answered. What happened? Serena hesitated. They told me I'm a burden, that they're moving to France, that they want to live without me. Silence. Then Nadia's voice rose in disbelief. What? Who says that to their own child? Apparently mine do, Serena whispered. They've probably been planning it for months. I'm coming over, Nadia said immediately. No, Serena replied softly. I just need to be alone right now. Fine, Nadia sighed. But I'm checking on you tomorrow. The next few days passed in a blur. Serena barely ate. Her phone buzzed endlessly with missed calls from her brother, Adrian, and text messages from her parents. Finally, on the third day, a message arrived from Celeste. We're selling the house next month. Come get your childhood things by Saturday or we'll throw them away. Don't call. Serena stared at the text, numb. They weren't just erasing her from their future. They were deleting her from their past. The ache in her chest deepened into something darker, colder, and more permanent. By Friday, Serena forced herself out of bed. Her apartment felt smaller than ever, the silence pressing on her like a weight. She finally answered one of Adrian's calls. Serena. Thank God, he said, relief flooding his voice. Mom and Dad told me you overreacted. What happened? Serena laughed bitterly. Overreacted. They told me I'm a burden, Adrian. They're moving to France and want to live without me. The line went quiet. They said that? He asked softly. Every word, she said, her voice breaking. I can't do this anymore. Adrian's voice wavered. Serena, I didn't know. Of course you didn't, she snapped before catching herself. You're their favorite. You always have been. That's not fair, he murmured. Isn't it? She said quietly. You were the son they bragged about. I was the daughter they endured. He didn't argue. After a pause, he said, Let me come over. No, Serena said, rubbing her temples. Just give me space. When they hung up, she felt empty, like all her energy had leaked out through the cracks in her heart. That night, Serena sat on her couch scrolling through old photos. Family vacations, graduations, Christmas dinners. In every picture she was smiling, but her parents never were. They looked like people posing for a magazine, not a memory. She realized then that she had spent her whole life auditioning for love that would never be given. Her body shook with fresh tears. When her phone buzzed again, she ignored it. It was her mother, probably with more instructions. For the first time in her life, Serena turned her phone off. 3 days later, the knock on her door startled her awake. Serena. Nadia's voice called. If you don't open this door, I'm using the spare key. Serena groaned, pulling the blanket tighter, but the lock clicked anyway. Nadia stepped inside holding grocery bags. You gave me that key for emergencies. You haven't answered for 3 days. So yeah, emergency. Serena tried to smile, but her lips trembled. I didn't want you to see me like this. Like what? Nadia said, setting soup and bread on the table. Human. Heartbroken. Join the club. Nadia warmed soup in the microwave while Serena sat numbly at the table. Eat, Nadia ordered gently. Serena obeyed, spoon by spoon, the warmth soothing her chest. You can't keep letting them destroy you, Nadia said. They don't deserve that power. Serena looked down. I know, but it still hurts. They're my parents. Nadia nodded. And that's the tragedy. They're supposed to protect you, not tear you apart. Serena's eyes filled again. What am I supposed to do now? First, Nadia said, taking her hand. You live. Then we'll figure out the rest later. That evening, as Nadia cleaned up, she hesitated. There's something you should know, she said. I ran into someone from your parents' country club, Sarah Peterson. She said your parents have been telling people you're unstable. Serena froze. Unstable? Yeah. That you've been erratic, asking them for money, can't keep a job. They've been setting the stage, Serena. They wanted everyone to believe cutting you off was mercy. Serena's breath caught. They've been doing this for months. Sarah said at least 3. Betrayal replaced grief. They planned this, she whispered. That night, Serena couldn't sleep. Rage pulsed through her veins, sharper than heartbreak. She opened her old laptop, the one she had used in college when she'd briefly helped her father organize financial spreadsheets for his company, Blake Industries. Back then, she hadn't understood what she was seeing. Numbers that didn't add up, accounts that seemed to disappear overseas. Now, with years of marketing and finance experience, she recognized the truth. Oh my God, she whispered. He's been hiding money. The fog of despair began to clear, replaced by clarity and purpose. When she called Nadia the next morning, her voice was calm. I need your laptop. Nadia arrived 20 minutes later, confused but compliant. What are you planning? Serena didn't answer until she'd opened old email archives. Evidence, she said simply. I think my father's been committing tax fraud for years. Nadia's eyes widened. Serena, that's serious. So is destroying your own daughter, she said flatly. They spent hours cross-referencing emails, spreadsheets, and bank transfers. The pattern was undeniable. Offshore accounts, hidden revenue streams, falsified expense reports. He's been cheating the system, Serena said quietly. All this time. Are you thinking of turning him in? Nadia asked. Serena stared at the glowing screen. I don't know. She imagined her father's reaction, his rage, his arrogance. He'd call it business strategy. This could ruin him, Nadia warned. Serena nodded. He ruined me first. But even as she said it, she felt a twinge of conflict. He's still my father, she murmured. Nadia leaned forward. Then don't do it out of revenge. Do it because it's right. There's a difference. Serena exhaled slowly. You're right. I'll talk to someone, officially. The next afternoon, Serena met Mark Rivera, a friend of Nadia's who worked for the IRS. They sat in a quiet cafe. Serena outlined the situation without naming names. Mark listened carefully, then said, If you have evidence of major tax evasion, you can report it under whistleblower protection. You won't be at risk if you weren't part of it. And if the person's planning to leave the country? She asked. Then it's urgent, he replied. The government can freeze assets before they flee. Serena nodded slowly. Thank you, she said. You've just helped me find my voice again. That night, Serena sat at her desk surrounded by files, flash drives, and old notebooks. She stared at her father's emails, the financial statements she'd once organized for him, and the list of shell companies linked to his name. Each document was a piece of the puzzle, A record of deceit carefully hidden under the illusion of success. For the first time, she saw her father clearly, not as the powerful businessman she'd grown up fearing, but as a man who thought he was untouchable. Maybe he's not, she whispered to herself. The next morning, Serena called Nadia. I've made up my mind, she said firmly. I'm going to report him. Nadia hesitated. Are you sure you're ready for what comes next? Once you do this, there's no going back. Serena looked out her window, watching the sunlight filter through the blinds. He called me a burden, Nadia. They wanted to erase me from their lives. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. Her voice didn't shake this time. This isn't revenge. It's justice. Nadia was silent for a moment before saying softly, Then I'm with you. Over the next week, Serena compiled every piece of evidence into neat folders. Emails, spreadsheets, transaction logs, even handwritten notes she had taken years ago. When the file was complete, she printed a statement summarizing her findings. It was clinical and factual, yet beneath the calm words lay years of pain. The man who had called her mediocre had been lying to the government for decades. Funny, she murmured. Turns out the real failure wasn't me after all. She sealed the envelope, her hands steady for the first time in days. Before submitting the documents, Serena called Adrian. I need to tell you something, she began. Dad's been hiding money, lots of it. Silence stretched across the line. Serena, this isn't funny. I'm not joking. I have proof. Adrian sighed heavily. You can't do this. It'll destroy him. He destroyed me, she said simply. He made sure I'd never forget how small I was. I'm done playing the quiet daughter. What about Mom? He asked. She's in it too, Serena replied. Maybe not the numbers, but she knew. Serena, he whispered, you're about to start a war. Then so be it. The next morning, Serena handed over the package to Mark Rivera, who promised to escalate it through the proper channels. You did the right thing, he said quietly as she left. But that night, alone in her apartment, doubt crept in. Was she a good person for exposing them, or a bad daughter for doing it? The line between justice and betrayal blurred. Still, she couldn't undo it. The evidence was out there now. As she looked around her small apartment, her sanctuary, she whispered, Let the truth do what it must. 3 days later, Serena's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Her parents had called 17 times, their messages swinging wildly between fury and desperation. Serena, you need to call us back, Leonard's voice demanded in one recording. This family situation needs to be resolved immediately. In another, Celeste sounded teary. Sweetheart, there's been a misunderstanding. Please, let's talk. Serena listened to each one with a strange detachment. Now they want to talk, she muttered. Now that their empire's burning. She forwarded the voicemails to her lawyer, who advised, document everything. Don't respond. The following week, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her mother. We need to talk. Come to the house tomorrow at noon. This is not a request. Serena stared at it for a long moment, then showed it to Nadia. You're not going alone, Nadia said immediately. I have to, Serena replied. This isn't just about them anymore. It's about me finally standing up to them. Nadia looked uneasy. Promise me you'll record everything. Serena nodded. Don't worry, she said quietly. I won't let them twist the story again. The next day, Serena drove to Westchester for the last time. The long driveway looked different now. The perfection seemed hollow. A for sale sign stood in the yard, and many of the antiques visible through the windows were gone. When her father opened the door, he looked older, the arrogance drained from his face. Finally, he said, stepping aside. Your mother's waiting. Celeste sat in the living room, a wine glass already in hand despite the early hour. Serena, darling, she said with forced cheer. How lovely to see you. Serena remained standing. 3 weeks ago you told me I was a burden. That you wanted to live without me, she said evenly. Leonard shut the door a little too hard. Let's not revisit unpleasantness. We have bigger problems. You mean the IRS investigation? She asked, watching their faces pale. You know about that, he demanded. Celeste's voice trembled. You think you have leverage, don't you? You think you've won. Serena smiled faintly. I'm not here for leverage. You asked me to come. So talk. The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. Leonard began pacing. This investigation is a witch hunt. Lies spread by competitors. Serena folded her arms. Then how do they know about the accounts in the Cayman Islands and Zurich? He froze. How do you? Because I gave them that information, she said. The words dropped like stones. Celeste's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. You did what? He gasped. I told the truth, Serena said. Something you've both avoided your entire lives. Leonard's face twisted in rage. You ungrateful little. Careful, she interrupted, pulling out her phone. I'm recording. Leonard froze mid-stride. His face flushed with fury. Why would you do this to your own family? He demanded, his voice trembling with rage. Serena met his glare without flinching. Family, she repeated softly. You told me I was a burden. You said you wanted to live without me. I just gave you what you wanted, freedom. Celeste stood, her voice shaking. We were upset that night, Serena. We didn't mean those things. Serena's lips curved into a sad smile. You meant every word. You've been saying them my whole life, just in different forms. Leonard's tone shifted from anger to negotiation. We can fix this. Whatever you want. Money, a position in the company, a new apartment in the city, it's yours. Just make this go away. Serena stared at him, truly seeing him for what he was. A man who believed everything could be bought. You don't get it, do you? She said quietly. All I ever wanted was your love and respect. But you can't buy those, because you never had them to give. Celeste scoffed. This self-righteous act doesn't suit you, Serena. You're still our daughter. Not anymore, Serena said. Not after what you did. Before anyone could speak again, there was a loud knock on the door. Leonard frowned. Who the hell? He opened it to find 3 agents standing outside, badges gleaming. Leonard Blake, the lead agent said calmly. I'm Agent Harrington with the Internal Revenue Service. We have a warrant to search the premises and seize any financial records related to Blake Industries. Celeste gasped. This must be a mistake. It's no mistake, ma'am, the agent replied. Please step aside. Serena stood motionless as the color drained from her father's face. This is outrageous. Leonard barked. I have rights. And we have a warrant, Agent Harrington said, handing him the document. Celeste sank back onto the couch, her wine glass still trembling in her hand. We're supposed to leave for France next week, she whispered. I'm afraid that won't be possible, the agent said. Your passports have been flagged. Neither of you may leave the country during the investigation. Leonard turned toward Serena, his expression a mix of rage and disbelief. You did this, he hissed. You ruined everything. Serena met his gaze. No, father. You ruined yourself. As agents began collecting files and computers, Serena turned toward the door. Behind her, Celeste began to cry softly. You'll regret this, Leonard said bitterly. One day, you'll realize what you've done. Serena paused, her hand on the doorknob. I already know, she said. I stopped being your daughter the moment you decided I was disposable. Outside, the spring air felt clean, almost weightless. Her phone buzzed. It was Adrian. I just got a call from the IRS, he said. They want to interview me about Dad's business practices. Then tell them the truth, Serena said quietly. All of it. You're really going through with this, Adrian said after a pause. Yes, Serena replied, her voice calm. It's the right thing to do, even if it destroys them. Especially if it stops them from destroying anyone else. She watched as agents carried boxes of files out of the house, her parents standing helpless in the doorway. There was no triumph in her heart, only release. For the first time, she felt free from the chains of their approval. They wanted to live without me, she murmured to herself. Now they'll have to. Weeks passed. The investigation dominated business headlines. Blake Industries under federal review for tax evasion. Serena avoided the news at first, but curiosity eventually drew her in. Each article confirmed what she already knew. Her father had been committing fraud for over a decade. When she returned to work, her colleagues treated her with quiet admiration, unaware of the storm she had survived. Her promotion stood, her reputation intact. For the first time, Serena realized her worth had never depended on her family's validation. It had always been her own. 1 month later, Adrian called. "They're pressing charges," he said. "Dad's taking a plea deal. 18 months in minimum security." Serena closed her eyes, a strange calm settling over her. "And Mom?" 3 years probation, he said. She claimed she didn't know the details. Serena sighed. She always knew. There was silence on the line, then Adrian said softly, "You did what had to be done. I'm proud of you." It was the first time anyone in her family had ever said those words. Serena smiled faintly. "Thank you, Adrian. That means more than you know." Months rolled into a year. The Blake mansion was sold to pay legal fees, and her parents' social circle evaporated. The people who once admired them now crossed the street to avoid them. Serena had moved into a new apartment in Brooklyn, sun-filled with bookshelves, plants, and framed photographs of friends instead of family portraits. Each morning, she brewed coffee and opened the windows to the city's hum. The freedom was intoxicating. She still attended therapy with Dr. Carroll, who reminded her, "Healing isn't about forgetting, Serena. It's about reclaiming your story." By spring, Serena's life had transformed. She had been promoted again, this time to Director of Brand Strategy, and her campaigns were winning national recognition. At night, she met friends for dinner or spent quiet evenings reading on her balcony. One evening, Nadia joined her, sipping wine as the sunset painted the skyline gold. "Do you ever think about them?" Nadia asked. Serena nodded. "Sometimes. But not with hate anymore. Just clarity. Would you ever forgive them?" "Maybe," Serena said thoughtfully. "But forgiveness doesn't mean letting them back into my life." She raised her glass. "To freedom and to peace." A full year passed since the night Serena's world collapsed. The calendar had circled back to spring, and cherry blossoms drifted across her street like confetti. The city had a rhythm she finally matched. Morning coffee, confident strides to work, laughter over late dinners with people who truly cared. Her parents' names occasionally surfaced in the news, brief mentions of their financial downfall, but they no longer triggered anger or shame. Instead, they reminded her how far she had come from the frightened daughter she used to be. Adrian had moved to Boston, joining a smaller law firm that aligned with his principles. He called Serena every week, their conversations no longer tense or distant. "I visited Dad yesterday," he said during one call. "He asked about you." Serena stirred honey into her tea. "And what did you tell him?" "That you're thriving," Adrian replied. "That you've built a life that doesn't include them, and that's okay." Serena smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe he'll finally understand that losing me was the cost of his choices." Therapy with Dr. Carroll continued, but the sessions had shifted. They no longer revolved around surviving her parents' cruelty. Instead, they focused on building the future Serena wanted, a life rooted in self-worth, not approval. "Healing is not about forgetting," Dr. Carroll reminded her. "It's about rewriting your narrative." Serena nodded. "Then I'm ready to write the next chapter." "And what will it be about?" the therapist asked. Serena thought for a moment. "Peace, purpose, maybe even love." For the first time, those words didn't scare her. 6 months later, love arrived quietly, at a charity event her firm sponsored. His name was Damon Cole, a financial analyst with a warm smile and kind eyes. He was the first man who didn't see Serena as a project or a problem to fix. He listened when she spoke, laughed at her sarcasm, and never flinched when she mentioned her parents' family as earned. Damon told her once. Just like respect. Just like love. Serena had smiled at that, because it was the same truth she had learned the hard way. Their relationship grew naturally. Dinners, walks through Prospect Park, and quiet mornings spent reading side by side. Damon didn't try to fill the gaps her parents left. He simply stood beside her as she filled them herself. When she introduced him to Nadia and Adrian, they approved instantly. "He looks at you like you're the most interesting person in the room," Nadia teased. Serena laughed, shaking her head. "It's weird, isn't it? To be loved without having to earn it." "Not weird," Nadia said gently. "Just overdue." One afternoon, Serena received an unexpected letter, not from her parents but from their lawyer. They were requesting a meeting before moving to Arizona to start over after her father's release from prison. She sat with the envelope for hours, turning it over in her hands. When she finally told Dr. Carroll, the therapist asked, "What do you hope to gain from seeing them?" Serena sighed. "Nothing. Maybe closure. Maybe proof that they can't hurt me anymore." "Then go," Dr. Carroll said softly. "Not for them, for you." A week later, Serena agreed to meet them at a small cafe. Leonard looked thinner, older, his pride stripped away. Celeste wore oversized sunglasses though it was cloudy, her hands shaking slightly as she lifted her cup. "Serena," her mother began, voice trembling, "we're sorry for what we said. We were cruel." Leonard nodded stiffly. "I failed you as a father." Serena listened without interruption, her expression calm. "I appreciate the apology," she said when they finished. "But forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. I wish you both peace, from a distance." She stood, left payment for her coffee, and walked away. Outside, a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming magnolias. Serena inhaled deeply, her chest lighter than it had been in years. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't broken. She had faced her past, spoken her truth, and chosen herself. As she walked toward the subway, her phone buzzed. A text from Damon. "Dinner tonight? My place or yours?" She smiled. "Yours. And don't forget the garlic bread this time." His reply came instantly. "Wouldn't dare." For once, life felt beautifully simple. That weekend, Serena hosted her first dinner party in her Brooklyn apartment. The long wooden table gleamed under soft string lights. Nadia, Adrian, and Damon filled the space with laughter and stories. There were no cutting remarks, no silent judgments, only warmth. As they toasted, Serena looked around the table, her heart swelling. "To chosen family," she said, raising her glass. "To love that doesn't demand proof. And to starting over, on our own terms." The glasses clinked, and the sound was sweeter than any praise she'd ever craved. Later that night, after everyone had left, Serena stood on her balcony watching the city lights shimmer below. The air smelled of spring rain and new beginnings. She thought of her parents' final words, "You're a burden." But now she understood the truth. She had never been the burden. Their inability to love was. "You were wrong about me," she whispered to the night. "I was always enough." The wind carried her words away, and for the first time in her life, Serena Blake felt entirely, beautifully free.